Welcome to Moments in Time and Space, a microfiction podcast, bringing you tales of horror and suspense with your host, Aaron Maracle. Hello everyone. Running a small business in this day and age can be quite a challenge. Attracting loyal customers can be difficult, but one small video store in Northern California has managed to become very popular with some of the locals. It was close to midnight, and Greg was doing his best to stay awake at the counter. He was in his second week of employment with a video rental store, and he wanted to prove to Mr. Switzer that he was a good worker. A lot of his friends made fun of him for taking a job at such an archaic place. He took their teasing in stride, as jobs were scarce in their small town that was long past its glory days during the California Gold Rush. The store was usually quiet, Mr. Switzer was a good boss, and the pay was pretty good. The only drawback was one night a month, Mr. Switzer kept the store open until midnight. He called it Midnight Madness, and this was the first one Greg was asked to work. He really didn't see much point to it. Their last customer came in at 8 and did not bother to rent anything, so the last few hours have been quiet and very boring. The chime on the front door startled Greg, and he brought himself to alertness, ready to serve the night owl that had decided to come in just before close. He glanced at the front door, but did not see anyone. A quick scan around the store revealed nothing but the rows of shelves filled with DVDs waiting to be rented. He could hear shuffling of cloth coming from the section of the store where the comics were kept. Greg focused his attention on that area, and he could hear low guttural noises mixed with some clicks coming from behind the shelves. He thought about calling for Mr. Switzer, but did not want to seem like a coward over some noises. He made himself busy by reviewing the rentals for the day, prepared to cash out at the register once Mr. Switzer gave him the okay. The shuffling of cloth grew louder, and suddenly, 3 short figures appeared before him. They were about 4 feet high, wrapped in ratty black burlap cloaks with hoods pulled over their faces. Beneath their hoods, each of the short beings wore a pair of goggles with black lenses. Greg could see the deep gray skin of their faces was streaked with dirt, and they could be mistaken for young children if it weren't for the sharp teeth that filled their mouths. Stunned, Greg just stood there staring at them in silence. One of the beings stepped forward and placed 3 DVD cases on the counter, and looked up at Greg and cocked its head. "Sorry, Greg, I got busy in the back," Mr. Switzer said from behind him. "I will handle these folks." Greg stepped aside and watched as Mr. Switzer engaged with the strange little beings. The owner chatted with them they were old friends, and the little beings chirped at him as he ran their selections through the checkout process. "Caddyshack again? You fellows really like that one, don't you?" Mr. Switzer commented. The small beings chittered and bobbed their heads. One of them began to twist like the gopher from the film, much to the delight of his companions. "Well, next time you're in, I will put aside Happy Gilmore for you. I think you'll like that one," Mr. Switzer said, and he slipped the DVDs into a plastic bag. "Need some snacks?" The small beings grunted what must have been an affirmative, and Mr. Switzer produced a second bag. He began to load it up with red licorice, bags of popcorn, and some hard candies. He handed both bags to the small beings with a smile. 2 of the creatures clipped the bags to Mr. Switzer, while a third dropped a handful of something hard on the counter with a clatter. The strange creatures made their way out of the store, and Mr. Switzer waved after them. Greg finally found the courage to speak about what he had just witnessed. "What? Who?" Greg stammered without a definitive question. "Not really sure who they are or where they come from," Mr. Switzer said. "All I know is they show up about once a month, like to watch comedies, and enjoy snacks. Midnight Madness is just for them." "That is very kind of you." "Oh, they make sure I am well compensated for my kindness." Mr. Switzer gestured to the objects that the small being tossed into the counter. Greg took a closer look and saw about 6 marble-sized lumps of what appeared to be gold. Mr. Switzer picked up one of the gold nuggets and handed it to Greg. "You can have one as a bonus for helping with Midnight Madness. Let me know if you want to work the next one." Comedy is gold. Thank you for listening. If you like what you heard, please subscribe to the podcast and leave a review. You can also follow me on Twitter at Moments in TAS. Feel free to recommend this podcast to others and help it grow. Please check out our Patreon page if you want to offer additional support for this podcast. The opening and closing theme is Creepy Night by Daniel Carlton. Until next time, be safe, be smart, and be well. See you soon.